Welcome back to the Disc Golf Show. This is episode 17 of the 2025 season. Today is August 26th of 2025. And as you can see, it's just me. You're stuck with me alone, solo dolo. Ken isn't feeling great. Justin's super busy. And we'll talk about that more as we get into the show. Let us get into the goods. This show is brought to you in part by our local pro shop, our beloved local pro shop, Final Nine Sports. They have two locations in Northern California. One is in Orangevale and one is in Rockland. We always suggest go ahead and support your local pro shops if you can. However, if you are unable to find what you are looking for at your local pro shop, we do have a remedy, and that is our other sponsor for the show, and that is Disc Golf Deals USA. You may have seen them. They are a sponsor of the tour, the Disc Golf Pro Tour, but they are also a partial sponsor of this podcast. So if you'd like, go to the link down below. The link is discgolfdealsusa.com/discgolfshow, and you will get 10% off your order. Some exclusions do apply, but the majority of everything on there, you're going to get that 10% off, so go check them out. Let's move on into the news, guys. This show's probably going to go pretty quick because I got nobody to argue with, nobody to battle with, outside of comments that you guys can drop in. We do have an update, a recent update to Ben Askren, somewhat recent, I guess is what you'd call it. He stated that coming out of his 45-day coma, he came out as a Christian. He talked with his wife, and more power to him. Ultimately, we just hope the best for him health-wise. His most recent videos have been about making some picks for some fights coming up, and he does seem to be managing his recovery better. And we just hope that continues on the upslope for him. And we hope to, he's a big supporter of disc golf. And as far as I know, out of anybody that's talked about him, he's a super nice guy. He always seems like he's very upbeat. And we just hope the best for him. Hopefully he's feeling better sooner and quicker. Outside of that, we do have an announcement from Kristen. Shortly after these last couple events, I think it was probably just before Ledgestone, I think. She announced that she's actually going to be taking a step back from the hustle, but she does plan to return for the Throw Pink and DGPT championships. We all know that she had some, I don't want to say yips, but she's been a little off her game on the putting green, which is usually where she's most dangerous. I mean, her game as a whole is very solid, but we know that her putting has always been really good, and it did not show in the last couple events that she's played. And she did state that she's taken time to rest, heal some injuries, and regain some strength and clarity before she does return for Throw Pink and DGPT championships. So we do hope to see her back in the competition and vying for those wins to add on to her list that she has of victories. There were a couple events that passed. There was Ledgestone was the event prior to this last weekend, and just some things I wanted to touch on. I know it's 2 weeks ago. You probably don't care to hear any more about it because the most recent event just happened and finished up the other day. But a couple things that I wanted to note were from the press conference for Ledgestone. We know that Nate Heinold runs really great events. This event, he considered it and called it the Woodstock of disc golf. Take that as you may. It is a very large event. Apparently, across all divisions, there were 2,600 plus competitors, from pros down to age-restricted divisions. And in addition to during that press conference, we heard Owen talking about wanting to work with the Paul McBeth Foundation to get a course installed in Lao. That would be cool. The more courses, the better, and the more variations of courses, the better. Maybe even getting a course to the level of those A tiers or even pro tour events would be awesome to see in other countries. Also to note, top-rated Illinois FPO player Addison Woodard, only 16 years old, was highlighted at this event. And we know all those youngsters that are coming up vying for those wins against the veterans, there's a ton of them out there, man, and they're starting to show their faces. They're starting to be highlighted at these events, and it's good to see because those are the names that you'll most likely be seeing years down the road. So shout out to Addison Woodard. We had at this event for FPO, there was a playoff, and that playoff in FPO was between Valerie Mondohano and Owen Scoggins. Ultimately, Valerie was able to take that win back. It's the first big win that she's had since her injury that she had dealt with, and we're glad to see her back in that winner's circle. The biggest kind of to do about this was how a disc was picked up by Owen. After discussing with Val, they both agreed, it was in playoff, it was in sudden death, and Owen picked it up. Nate Heinold came over, said, "Hey, you can't pick that disc up. Valerie needs to put it out." And they kind of questioned it. My take on this is ultimately it's a non-issue. Was he in the wrong? No. Would it have mattered? No. The only people would probably been some few people in Reddit saying, "Oh, there was a rule that was broken." I think spirit of the rule, spirit of the law here is something that could have been abided by. But ultimately, did it affect it in any bad way? No, it was just kind of a weird thing that happened at this event after that or during that sudden death playoff. So big shout out to Valerie on that win. Also, we had Gannon Buhr get another win. He was on a roll. I think that was his fourth in a row. He had, outside of obviously the world sports games that he won gold at with Missy, and another win for him. He's been dominant this middle section of this season. He didn't come out super hot, but he's definitely put his foot down in this middle section of the 2025 disc golf season. And, he's just adding to his list of victories, kind of like, Owen is or Kristen or whatnot. But shout out to him for getting another win. He's showing that he's not going anywhere anytime soon. He's shooting for that all-time high rating, player rating. I believe it's 1064, 1063, somewhere around there, by McBeth. The biggest issue that came from this event was not player related, even though that whole disc thing happened. I think it was more vendor related. So friends of the show, Treasures of the Forest. If you don't know who they are, go check them out. Great minis, great products that they have. He uses acrylic and wood found at different courses wherever he plays, and he makes minis out of them. Super great, high quality products. I would suggest go checking them out. Treasures of the Forest. Basically, ultimately, it just came down to him making a post stating that at the event location, there weren't any clear answers given as to where the vendors were supposed to be. Now, this is touted as one of the biggest events on tour. You would think that the organization aspect of vendors would be taken into consideration. I think that outside of the vendor, I believe it was a fly mart held more so in the city in that area. There was a day in which that was held. At the events themselves, it wasn't extremely organized. All the vendors seemed to be frustrated by what he was saying. It didn't seem like there was any designated space for vendors. They kind of just found space that they wanted to be able to have access to, and they just posted up there. This is also apparently the most expensive stop on tour for vendors. So that you would think also would be taken into consideration to have more structure built for those vendors. They travel just as much as these athletes, and they put their life on the possibility of making profit at these events. And so if it's structured better, if it's organized better, then there's less worry on their end to have to figure out those parts of it when they come to these events. And I think that needs to definitely be taken into consideration. But I hope that all these vendors were able to make some profit at this event above and beyond what they expect. It is, again, one of the biggest events out there. So hopefully that gets fixed in the upcoming tour stops, as well as the upcoming years, where vendors are, I don't want to say prioritized over anything, but prioritized in general. They're helping just as much as the event. So other than that, we move on to the most recent event. We have Idlewild. So LWS Open at Idlewild is an event that just cleared up this last weekend. And we have Own getting another victory against this array of players, array of athletes in FPO. She just had her 44th birthday, but she's showing she's not going anywhere either. She can defend and she can beat all these other players just as much as any other player has a chance at it as well. You have players that are in their teens that are playing and have that younger elasticity in their body, but her technique is just so good that she's able to not only keep up with, but hold off and beat these other athletes out there in her division. So awesome to see that. Big shout out to Own. The biggest story out of this event is the battle that we finally got between Buhr and McBeth. So McBeth, it's been over 2 years. It was sometime in 2023 that he got his last tour win. He's had a lot on his plate. He's had Paul McBeth Foundation. He has his family. He has, and it doesn't matter whatever way you want to take this. People don't have the ability to play well after they get married or have kids. Well, you know what? There's a lot of mental space and capacity that goes into having to manage that part of your life outside of your work life. And as much as you would like it not to affect, it does. Out of your control, it will affect. But we finally get this battle between McBeth and Buhr. And it came down to basically the last hole 18 at this event. And McBeth was able to finally get that win after dealing with, again, he had some injuries as well that he dealt with. But it's finally good to see that he's not, I don't even want to say fallen off, because he hasn't fallen off. He's been so consistent this year. He's been so consistent with his play this year that it was bound to happen for him. He's only had, at most of these events, he's only had like one round that kind of kept him out of it. But it's so good to see that he was able to hold off Buhr, who has, again, been so dominant as of late. And, I think the storyline, or quote unquote storyline here, is, will he be able to continue? Will he be able to get that 18th major? Seeing him kind of get everything together finally and get this victory, that's going to be a huge boost for him moving forward, as it is for anybody who wins an event, a tour stop. But, I'm hoping personally that he is able to get that 18th major. That would be super awesome to see, whether it's this year or next year. But so happy that finally people were able to see the McBeth that we've all known and loved over the past decade plus time finally show what he's capable of. But yeah, it's super awesome to see him get that win after just over 2 years. Outside of the events that just happened, we did get an announcement for the 2026 tour season, Disc Golf Pro Tour. We had not only, I believe it's Olympia is coming back at the beginning of the year. Dylan Cease and Paul McBeth's course that they picked up and cleaned up and made into a tour stop. We have a new venue that's going to be a new locale that's going to be accessed finally. So we're going to have a completely new style of course. It's going to be held in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. So, we know Matty O is a big fan of that area, and it's going to be held at the Parc des Families. It's called the Big Easy Open. It's going to be held on March 13th to 15th. So we're finally getting kind of a new, yes, we've had some courses over the years jump in and drop out of the actual tour. They end up becoming possibly Q series or whatnot. But it's good to see finally a new course, a new style of disc golf. And the cool thing about this is that really, outside of, a few athletes, there's not going to be anybody who has a ton of historical experience at this location. So that's going to be interesting to see who is able to lock in at this new type of looking course, I guess. All right, guys. Before we move on to the next segment, I do want to ask a favor. Please click that subscribe button. It does help more than you know. You can always unsubscribe later. Totally understand. You don't have to like everything, right? There's some podcasts that I like, some that I don't, some that I sample and then decide, it's not for me. That's okay. We understand. But moving on, we've got disc golf conversation. Seeing as how there's nobody else here, it's not going to be much of a conversation. But I am going to propose this question to you guys. I do want to know, should TDs be able to play in the event that they are running? Personally, I think there's a bit of a conflict of interest there. I think if you're running it, concentrating on running and making it the best event. I do understand that once the event kind of starts, there's not as much responsibility outside of making calls for the TD once the event has started. There are a couple things that still need to be managed, whether it's tee times or whatnot for following days. But again, that depends on the event size, that depends on the tier and all that. But I personally think that if you're running the event, concentrate on running it. Don't worry about playing it. There's plenty of other events that you can play in that you are not running. But, I mean, like I said, what do you think? Do you think there's other things outside of conflict of interest that could cause an issue for a TD that is not only the TD, but he's also a competitor in the event? Let us know down in the comments below. Let us know if you don't see if there's a problem with it. Maybe you TD events and you play in those events. What are the things that you say, oh, well, that's not an issue, whatever. Let us know below. I gave you my opinion. Please give me yours. We're going to move on to gear and equipment. This is where we let you know of the stuff that's been recently approved from the PDGA. This segment is brought to you again in part by Disc Golf Deals USA. They are our partial sponsor of the show, but definitely the main sponsor of this segment. So go check out discgolfdealsusa.com/discgolfshow and get 10% off your order there. Approved August 18th, we do have a target that was approved, the championship level target by Disc Birdie. It is called the Birdie Catcher. All the links will be down below if you want to check them out on pdga.com. They'll take you to those pages. As for discs, we have the Disc Golf Association. So DGA had the Blast that was approved. We have Discmania, who got a couple approved on August 18th. That is the Premier FD and the Premier DD3. From what I believe, I think these are those ones that we discussed prior about having a less weight in the lid and more of that weight being designated and pushed out to the edge so it flies farther. It has a different makeup, basically. The lid itself is thinner, so more of that weight is pushed out. As for August 25th, so we do know that PDGA usually announces these on Mondays. So just yesterday, we had Mint Discs, had the Pickle approved. We have TSA, otherwise Thought Space Athletics, had the Requiem approved. And we have Discount Disc Golf, had the Adrenaline Junkie approved on August 25th. Outside of those discs, some of the other products we do like to highlight is Ideo Shoes. If you need shoes, check out them. Check out our affiliate link at Vessi Shoes as well. So Ideos, I've talked about this a little bit. Vessi Shoes, waterproof knitted style shoe, great option. More of a rake to the shoe. Ideos are more closer to a zero style shoe, so they don't have an angle to your foot. They're more natural and very lightweight, waterproof, all that. They have low top and high top as well. So if, depending on what your taste is, check out Ideo Sports as well as Vessi and see which one of those you like the best. The other product that I did want to talk about a little bit, I finally had the chance to play with this product. It is Legends of the Chain. So if you've played with Ripped or Ripped Revenge, you kind of know how some of those card games go. This has a little bit different of a twist to it. you have a character that you randomly pull out of the deck of cards. And the reason why I'm talking about this is I played this recently with a group of people. We kind of played it a little bit differently because I think this is more designated for singles, but we played doubles. So each double player got their own card. We also, during this kind of play that day, we switched partners. We went solo the past 3 holes. We swapped cards out after 9 holes. So we kind of did a variety of styles of using these cards, but the cards themselves, they have a set of rules that you can apply for the card that you choose, and you can apply them once per card. So if you use it, you lose it. But there's 3 that you are automatically given that you can use. They're kind of like basic ones that you can apply to people. However, on the backside of that card, of that personality, that character card, you have 3 that you can unlock. One is the first birdie, you unlock 1. If you get 3 birdies during your round, you unlock another rule that you can apply. And if you happen to hit metal off the tee, you can unlock a 3rd one. So, and again, you hit metal off the tee on the first hole, you don't have to get 3 birdies before you unlock that metal one. So they're very, very unique style rules. It was very fun to play, very cool. Go ahead and, if you haven't tried them, go check them out. Again, it's Legends of the Chains. So you can go to legendsofthechains.com and order some of those cards. If you have a tournament, you can also contact them and see if you can get your own character created for your tournament. We have a friend of the show, Roger, who did that for one of his events. So you can actually get unique characters made. Obviously, you have to figure out how much that costs and whatnot, but you could have something specifically made for your tournament to hand out as player pack items or whatever. Very, very cool idea and fun to play. And it would be interesting to see how you could use them in different styles of play because, again, we played doubles, but I think they're more designated for singles. Let's move on. We will move on to, well, Ken's not here, so this is going to be Nick's fantasy segment today. Ultimately, it's easy to say, yeah, you pick whoever. It doesn't matter. Anybody can win. Yes, but there are a few that I would suggest maybe leaning towards. For this new event, the most current event, or the next event coming up, which actually I'll run through those really quick, a couple events here. We have September 4th to 7th. That's the next Pro Tour event. It's the 2025 Discraft Great Lakes Open. It is a Disc Golf Pro Tour Plus event held in Milford, Michigan. And then our friends up north. We always like to support some of these events that doesn't get as much notice, and that is the Canadian Championship. It is a DGPTQ Series event, and that is in Port Hope, Ontario, September 12th to 14th. But talking about the next upcoming tour stop, the Great Lakes Open, DGLO. For players that you might want to look at, we have Own. She's been hot this season. We have, obviously, Buhr's been hot. McBeth has the most recent win, so he's got a lot pushing for him. You have Missy Gannon, who's had some big wins as of late. And, I'm always leaning towards favorites. My favorite, Simon, so I would love to see him get a win. I'm going to just put this out there and say Simon wins USDGC this year. I'm just going to do that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. But I would love to see Simon finally get that major under his belt. I'm always hoping for him to get that as well. Though that does go against me saying I'd like to see Paul get it. I mean, there are a couple left. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. FPO, again, Val got a recent win. So Mondohano, Alexis was up there near the lead for a little bit. Her sister. Who else? I mean, there's a lot of great players out there in both divisions. Adam Hammis has been strong. He just kind of hasn't put everything together lately, but I would say he's probably another one to look out for. There are a couple not top 10 players that I see as possibilities. Sullivan Tipton's one of those. Silas Schultz. I think Silas is on the verge of doing something good. I think he's He's definitely got the skill, definitely got the power. I think that he just needs to kind of line all those things up and do well. But he's been pushing and pushing throughout this year, so it would be good to see him get a win in if possible. Outside of those couple events, we have this is an event announced by Paul McBeth Foundation and UDisc in collaboration. This is the Throw for More campaign. This is going to be held on the last day of summer, September 20th. This is kind of a cool thing because it's a way, I don't know if you've done those events where, you run and each mile you raise funds for something. It's kind of like that. Ultimately, you can gather pledges for you playing disc golf per hole or flat donation. It doesn't matter. All those funds are going to go toward new course installations, equipment, and education efforts at those new locations. In addition to you getting pledges, UDisc and Paul McBeth Foundation will donate 10 cents for every round logged in their app on September 20th. The record for UDisc on a single day is 116,000 rounds played, and what they're trying to do is break that record, and they're shooting for at least 120,000 rounds played on September 20. So if you don't have plans to play on September 20, make some, and let's crush that 120,000 round record or 116,000 round record by boosting that up over 120,000 rounds. In addition to this, not only is it to raise funds, you as an individual, club, or TD can also win some prizes. So the top individuals, clubs, and TDs could be awarded prizes or will be awarded some prizes. And not only that, but all participants are going to be automatically entered into a raffle for exclusive items. So that's kind of cool. Outside of whatever, you're always going to be automatically entered into a raffle. You could win some cool stuff. If you want to see a little video about it, check the YouTube link down below, or you can probably look up on Paul McBeth Foundation YouTube channel or UDisc and look for Throw for More campaign. So we're looking forward to that and seeing what happens after that, after September 20th. Let us move on to the mailbag, guys. We do have a couple products that I did want to go over really quick. First thing, luckily enough, I was able to be included in some testing of, and I mentioned this last show, of Perfect Putt 360. This is an app that gives you more of a structure for your putting practice so that you can make your putting more consistent and better. They mark it off like 10 to 30 feet, and you throw the original app that was available years ago. It was 10 shots from each 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. They do have a light version now, and they also have a pro version where the pro, I think, starts at 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40. So that's kind of cool. The light version, you're only doing 5 putts and it's 1 round. The other versions, you do 10 putts from each location and you do 2 rounds. And obviously the perfect count, 360 is what you can get. They do have analytics now that are kind of cool. So you can see whether or not you're off right out the gate on your first putt, or maybe you kind of dwindle near the end, you get a little tired or whatnot. They have analytics for consistency from each location, and they also track your level. So if you look like you're doing better, you'll see that graph showing you doing better or whatnot. So that's kind of cool. I'm a numbers guy, so I do like to see those types of things. And yeah, so another cool thing about this is they kind of gamify it a little bit. They're going to be adding in achievements. So, you could suggest some if you want to put some down below. I'll share those. But like I'd say, maybe you're not a finisher. Maybe you miss every single final putt through that 1 round, and it's a bad badge, but it's kind of a fun badge to get. Not what you want, but it's a badge. It's kind of interesting. Other ones, maybe hot out the gate. You get every single first putt at each location. Different achievements like that. Obviously perfect round, you're going to get 360, get a super achievement with that. But those little achievements / like badges type of a thing, I think that can make it more fun and not so much as going out. Like I said, this app makes it less draining. going out and just putting and kind of having to remember it in your head. How did I do last time? Where was I messing up? Well, this will track all that for you. So big shout out. Keep your eyes peeled for Perfect Putt 360 coming your way. In addition to that, we hooked up with another apparel company, not for us personally, but we like to get as much info out to you guys as possible for new businesses coming out. And this one is called Howdy Disc Golf. HowdyDiscGolf.com. HOWDY discgolf.com. They make some fun, cool shirts. Obviously, Howdy, so it's kind of like Texas themed. There's some horns, stuff like that. Really, really cool. I think there's definitely a lot of space in the apparel area for disc golf to be able to have more options out there. And I always look forward to seeing these companies pop up and hope that they do well and grow and are supported by the disc golf community. So again, go check out howdydiscgolf.com. Outside of that, we've got a community video. It's a video that we suggest watching. And ultimately, that comes down to the most recent video. I believe it's probably either on Disc Golf Pro Tour or possibly Jomez. Check out the Paul McBeth montage of his throws throughout the Idlewild event. And you will understand what we, who have been playing for a long time, have known all along. That Paul McBeth is an amazing athlete, an amazing disc golfer. Again, we hope to see him more near the top, at the top, winning events. He's arguably the GOAT in disc golf. Yes, Ken Climo. Can give a nod to Ken Climo. McBeth is basically one major away from kind of sealing that down. But again, go check out that video. You can see some of those amazing shots that he made throughout that event. And go watch a bunch of the other tour stops that have already played. You can see him near the top almost at every event that's been played. So again, Paul McBeth, go check him out so you can understand what we already know. Let's move on to the outro, guys. Okay, we know that everybody likes to save money, and we've kind of mentioned that here and there. If you are in the market for a new disc golf bag, check out Upper Park Disc Golf. You can use code DiscGolfShow to get 15% off your bag. They make some great bags, cool colorways, so go check them out. You can go to Disc Golf Deals USA for your online disc golf shopping needs. You can save 10% on your entire purchase by using our affiliate link. It is discgolfdealsusa.com/discgolfshow. And as always, this episode was brought to you in part by our local beloved pro shop, Final Nine Sports, 2 locations, one in Orangevale and one in Rockland, California. If you would like to contact us with any information, something you want us to talk about, something you didn't like me saying, you can send it to theshow@discgolfshow.com or nick@discgolfshow.com for that hate mail. Or any inquiries. If there's businesses out there that you know about that we haven't mentioned, send them our way. We love to share that information with everybody via our socials as well as on here. So the more that we can do, the better, and we look forward to doing that. Subscribe, click that notification bell for future videos, and hit that like button, please, guys. You know, each one of those helps us tremendously. And for my missing friends, my missing co-hosts, Justin and Ken, in disc golf as in life, aim high and let it fly, guys. Have a good one.